I'm sorry?
Integrated, you know, it always surprises me that a young person over here will, if they hate a nationality, or if they're racist, because they've grown up around people who are of different ethnicities. And they've grown up around foreigners, so I don't understand why they would hate the foreigner or why they would hate someone who's different, because they've been exposed to it. The people who are not exposed to other people, them, I understand that they might not like people who are different from them.
At 6 o'clock, I hit that. Right, I understand that. Okay. Um, that's really informative. Anything else going on? This is my British. By the way, tell the folks what you do for a living.
I'm an advanced nurse practitioner in England.
I know.
see patients in primary care.
Okay, I'm sorry. Could you say that one more time? I'm sorry. You're a nurse practitioner, Miss Stevens.
Yes, in England. I actually had my formal nursing education in New York.
Okay.
Which was fantastic. I had a very good education in America, very good. And I returned to England about 18 years ago, and I've stayed here, and I'm a nurse practitioner. I work in secondary care, that's the hospital, and primary care in the it's a GP out of hours situation where you see patients at night time when your GP in the daytime is not available. That's something the government has implemented.
Okay. The reason why I've asked primarily is because we had a discussion, I believe, last week on issues pertaining to African Americans. I mean, Africans, black people around the globe, and there was some information that you were strong in trying to get me to understand. I believe it has to do with one was the high blood pressure levels, I believe, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, could you just give the folks a little information?
Yeah. With regards to the black people have more, or Africans, people of African heritage, African Americans, Afro Caribbeans, any African descent, black people have a higher muscle mass. Because they have a greater muscle mass, your body breaks down muscle into urea. That's the byproduct, which goes through the kidneys and out into your urine. You are more likely, because of that high blood muscle mass, you are more likely to suffer from kidney disease. That's why it's important to have blood tests taken, urea, nitrogen. I think they call them BUNs over there, blood urea and nitrogen.
Okay. And how often should a person?
And also we have a.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Pardon?
I was saying, how often should a person
Also,
go and have a checkup to make sure that they're normal,
well,
that their levels are normal?
Round about when you're 40, you need to start to have your checkups. Just they over here they have something called well man or well woman checks, where they just check you for any type of problem, give you basic routine blood test.
So blacks have a higher rate of high blood pressure. Is it because of their diet, in addition to their muscle mass? Can can people do
Yes,
something
absolutely.
to help them from having these symptoms? And what are they?
Eat less salt. Definitely eat less fast food. I'll tell you, black people, the studies have shown. I listened to Dr. Boyce Watkins, and he actually says that a lot of black people spend a lot of their money on fast food.
Yes, yes, they do.
So
Absolutely.
fast food is not good for you.
Yeah. Right. Right. Let's see. We've got here, and I want people to take a note because we eat so much foods, especially with flour and a lot of noodles, and we got the cakes and the cereals everything has seemed to have a flour content, and a lot of folks, even in my conversations, don't realize that the the foods that they're eating break down into starches and into sugars because they're not really exercising and burning this stuff up. So it becomes
Yes.
sugar in your body, and which gives you a higher A1C level and raises your blood sugar levels, and folks getting diabetic. And matter of fact, I've seen a lot of folks, heavy set folks, don't want to say fat people, but large sized people, and they're just picking out on pizza and cheeseburgers at the same time. I mean, the high,
Mm.
and you know they're not exercising and so forth, and it's just sad to see, especially in the low income neighborhoods. That and I had a friend tell me last month that anytime she goes into a restaurant and sees the fat people eating, that she says fat people eating that. She knows they have poor quality food. So that's just a note to be more conscious of what you eat. 4:38 p.m. in the afternoon. The number here is 718-622-4950. That's 718-622-4590. The WhatsApp 347-718-810-1118, country code 01. If you're calling from the diaspora, from Rio, from Brazil, from South Africa, from Nigeria, to my folks in Antarctica, to Siberia with Vera, to Munich, to Tibet, and even local like California. As we know, California has been overwhelmed with these fires, and it's sort of crazy with these fires, and it would just imagine what would it be like, not if it just happened here in New York, but if our planet was just having this spontaneous combustible atmosphere. Let's say that you just walk outside and poof, maybe your hair just starts flaming. Um, it's not really funny. I think we've seen some movies like that in our lifetime. That it's getting hot up in here. I know in Arizona, the folks out there who probably have lived with an average daily temperature of 100 and something degrees. I ran across a gentleman on 6th Avenue, and he was here on vacation from Arizona, and he told me that in about 10 years, Arizona will be inhabitable. And I can see what's going on. I can see that. I can see that. And I think that pretty soon people have to be living underground because living above ground, it's not going to make it. So coming in on the line, I have a gentleman, Mr. Tommy Thompson. And Tommy, go ahead. Thomas. Can I hear Tommy on the radio? Hello, Tommy? I, I'm not getting any sound. Can I hear Tommy on the radio? Hello, Tommy? Well, I had Tommy Thompson. Well, I hear something faint, folks. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to do it a different way. I'm gonna, I hear something faint, folks. But hang in there. You know, ladies and gentlemen, just hang in there for me. Um, what we're going to do here is we're going to use some of my technology, and I'll get back. Let me tell you what happened on my way to the studio today. I'm leaving Whole Foods, and I have an issue with Whole Foods because I'm looking at how Brooklyn is developing, and and I'm like, how come in the urban neighborhoods, in the regular neighborhoods, we can't get supermarkets to do what we need for them to do, and how come we can't get Whole Foods and Trader Joe in our neighborhood? Hold on for me 1 minute, and we can't get them to come and patronize our neighborhoods. So so. Um, so we're going to talk about that in a minute. All right. Um, Mr. Floyd, Tommy Thompson. Okay, I got you on there. I'm using I'm trying to use an alternate method because, as you know, I'm still doing a space age electrical something, trying out experimentation for my show. All right, so I have you on speaker, so we're going to go through the speakerphone and just, Tommy, you're an engineer, so let's see if we can engineer this together. So you calling from Brooklyn or you calling from Queens? Where you calling from? Yeah, yeah. I love this. Yeah, so I have a. I'm sorry. We're gonna have to try this a different way because it didn't come over right. So we're gonna. I'm just gonna move on with this, and I'm gonna continue the story of what happened to me at Whole Foods. And as I'm walking down the street, I see this. I see these two women, and these two women are saying that's a dag shame. And what the problem was that there was a girl pushing this stroller with her mother. The girl must have been about 10 years old, and the mother must have been about 25, let's say, right? 25, 26. So she wasn't much older than the girl pushing the stroller. The girl had on these shorts, and as she's pushing the stroller, of course, she's leaning over, pushing over the stroller. And you can see that she had these shorts on that were too short. As a matter of fact, it looked like a bikini bottom, really. And the women were like, "Isn't that disgusting?" And and you know me, I just don't. I'm not a quiet person, so as I'm aggressively walking to catch up, and I say to the woman, excuse me, that's your daughter," and I say, look at, look, listen, you need to not have her push this car because people behind her are just looking at her. And so the mother, of course, says, that's my daughter. You should mind your business, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you know where that went to. It went to the shouting match about, but why do you have your daughter um, like this? And so we got into a shouting match. And we got into a shouting match. I'm going to try this again. Let's see how this works. Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
can you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're on the air. We're going to try this again. Okay. I got a little background noise, but just tell us to talk to me.
No, I just wanted to get in your program and I'm going to tell you have a program here going, radio station.
Uh-huh.
I was listening to a young lady talking about diabetes and our bad habits in eating. You know?
Right.
It's unfortunate that in our neighborhood. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. No, go ahead. I'm just listening.
Yeah, like I was saying, in our neighborhood, we don't have the pleasure of having good quality food.
Right.
Yeah. Most of our local groceries are less than edible.
Right.
You know.
Right.
If we need good quality food to buy, we have the white neighborhood.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And it's very easy to keep it there and you know and can't get the food that you need to eat readily available.
Right, and you're absolutely right. And so I want to ask you this question at the same time, then, because as I said, I just went down on my way to the studio and I'm going by Whole Foods, and I'm like, how come in the regular ghetto neighborhoods, or even not ghetto neighborhoods, right? We can only get the cheap supermarkets or the Bravos or the Key Foods, the low-graded Key Foods, and those type of stores, right? And meanwhile,
but see,
what?
that's the thing. If you go into the Key Food neighborhood, if you go into the Key Food in say a white neighborhood, and the Key Food is a black neighborhood, they're totally different products.
Right.
The inferior products is in our neighborhood. They're specifically pushed to our neighborhood because we don't seem to demand, or we don't have a choice but to go into another neighborhood to buy the food.
Right, and at the same time, though, the trucks come driving through our neighborhoods with the food that they bring to the other neighborhoods. Like, they come to Queens or they come to the South Bronx and heading into Manhattan to, right? They're all going into East Side Manhattan and Upper West Side and bringing the food from upstate New York, and they come into your neighborhoods, but they won't stop and give you any of the good food. And then you're left with the
What they do is they go into the white neighborhood and they take the product that was there from yesterday, put it in the truck, put new product there. And the product that they take from those, they bring it to our neighborhood and give it to our stores.
That's right.
Even the owners of the stores in our neighborhood, they do not get a choice of what to buy. When they bring them the food, it's low quality already.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
right. So the next question is, hypothetically speaking, answer the question: Do we need? Because when I go in Manhattan and I go to Trader Joe's, for instance, and I go buy a box of cereal, a wheat germ or shredded cereal, or because they mostly have healthy foods, right?
Yeah,
Right. And I get the big box, and the big box, even with raisins, is $2.50 or $3.49. And I'm like, if I go into a supermarket and go buy that in any neighborhood, it's $6 and $7 for a box of cereal. But I'm getting it at Trader Joe's for $2.49 in Midtown Manhattan, on the east side. So they're giving them this food at this low cost money. And
right.
You know what I mean? And so if they can afford to do that, where rents cost $5,000 and $10,000 a month, for you to live over there, but they can sell them cereal for $1.49 or $2.49 or $3.49. But in my neighborhood, right, or lower income neighborhood, but they want to charge, make sure you pay $7, $8. I don't get it.
Exactly. But don't you see the entrance of the white neighborhood? They do not eat as much cereals as we do. They tend to have something healthier. They go for the apples and the bananas and the fruits instead of the cereal.
Right.
They go,
Right.
So in our neighborhood, when we get the product, we buy it, and that's where they get our money from. They raise the price. Our fruit are damaged and no good. You go into our neighborhood and you see our fruit, it's unedible. You can't eat it.
Right.
So you don't have that choice. Right. And the white neighborhood, they rather buy the fruit. But we have the box stuff, the box cereal and the box dinners are there, and unfortunately, that's the only choice we have. But they put the price up because they know we have to buy it.
Right. So what are we left to do? What do we leave to do?
What I do is go to the white neighborhood if I really want something healthy. But that's not a choice for
right. But that's not a solution, though. But the solution is that we've got to start opening up our own supermarkets besides our own barbershops and beauty parlors. Seems that the only thing we have in a black neighborhood that we really call our own.
And churches.
Right? So I don't see why we haven't come up with some sort of something. And I know there's some Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey money out there, some Danny Glover, some Samuel Jackson, Denzel Washington, Diana Ross, Michael Jackson money out there that they need to be talking about doing something to make sure that the nutritional values of minorities are now addressed, because you can't get it done unless you get major money to own farms and to harvest crops, to bag it, package it, and then distribute it. And that's the only way we're really going to get our healthy diet, healthy eating, and the foods that we eat on. But I guess sometimes people are so accustomed to giving us the bad food since we've been slaves that they figure, well, it's all right. They've been eating this in slavery time, so they don't really need anything better. So, but thanks for on that. 718-622-4590. Thank you, Tommy Thompson. 718-622-4590. And all you folks here, I want to continue to tell you about what happened with the woman who I'm having this argument with, about her daughter wearing nothing on her behind in the street. And she says, that's my daughter, mind your business, that's my daughter. And so now I'm shouting because I like to bring attention to things. And all the people are on the corners are stopped, they're staring, and they're looking. And I'm pointing at the girl saying, but you got your daughter out here wearing nothing on and you don't care, and you're going to stand here and tell me that, well, why are you worried about it? You must be a pedophile. And I'm saying, listen, girl, they'll take you and your daughter and find you somewhere in the back of a highway somewhere. But it didn't bother the mother. That's my daughter. She's 10 years old. You mind your business. And so eventually the folks, some couple ladies were like, just leave her alone. She's not listening. That's a damn shame. And that is a damn shame. And I don't know what some of these parents are doing. I don't know why you want to have your child exposing herself like that. And it's just sad. It's just a very sad thing. We are a community, because she kept telling me, well, why are you worried about it? Why are you worried about it? And I said, because I'm an elder. This is what I'm saying to her. I'm an elder. I'm your elder. You're supposed to be listening. But people have lost people have lost their values, and it's sad. We have an immigration situation in America, and I know in my community where I grew up in the Rochdale Village, um, it was once primarily a Jewish community. Then the black folks came in, and now we have integrated. We have Haitians and we have Africans. We have all types of African culture coming in, and some other folks from other parts of the world too. And sometimes there's an attitude among the African Americans there, and they'll say in chants, wow, there's a lot of Africans moving in, or there's a lot of Haitians moving in, or whatever, and so. But like so what's the problem with the resentment? You remember it was the boat that just left people and dropped them off in different places, and and you are them too. But I welcome the my African brothers and sisters into the community from whatever parts of the world they're in, because we have a history that each one can reach one and teach one, and we need to teach each other, whether you're living on the continent of Africa or in South America or from Puerto Rico, Borinquen. Hello, Yvonne, in Rochdale. Whether you're from in Russia, Black Russians, or whatever, the Africans in China, we're all part of the whole world. We have a common denominator, which is our ancestry and the elders and how people respected their elders, and that's why we're tribal in our own way. And so bringing that to my community in Rochdale Village, Rochdale became an example of a mono society, a black mono society, after everyone had moved out and was primarily black. A black mono society of blacks governing themselves. They have their own power plants. They have their own malls. They're basically self-sufficient in the things that they need. They have a board of directors that is who manages the co-op, and they're elected by the shareholders or the cooperators, and then there's House Congress of the board of directors, so just regular people but they're both regular people, but like more of like a Congress, how you have a Congress and you have a Senate, you have the House of Congress and you have the board of directors. And the board is the ones that really set policy and do the contracts with outsiders, and it's a lot of money. There's 5,640 apartments in Rochdale, so there's hundreds of millions of dollars that go through there, and needless to say, it's always been a sort of a war for who gets elected on the board of directors when you campaign, because everybody wants to be a part of how to spend that money. And of course, she leads to favors from contractors. If you can give me that paint contract or that cement, that piping contract, that electrical contract, then we'll take care of you. So we see there was always an interest in that. That being said, then we therefore have a situation that people are going to work in the best interests of the community or in the best interests of themselves. And you know how politics is, how people work in the interests of themselves. And so when you think, well, what would it be like, for instance, the Obama administration, black people, Obama's in office, and it's going to all change because we got a black president, and why isn't he doing this? Cornel West and Tavis Smiley, people who talk about it but afraid to run for politics themselves. They'd rather sit on a TV show or a radio show and talk all these fancy words, but when it came down to running for something and doing something, they ain't going to do it. So, we used to respect them really highly, but I have a lot less because they just ridiculed Obama for trying to be the black Jesus Christ and everything, and it's just not like that. But Rochdale Village being a community run by a board of directors of black people, you would consider that the community would be run great, and it's not. And they have a co-op mall that has these vendors that a lot of them just aren't from the a community, um, and you're wondering why it's so. Why isn't the community more geared to taking care of the needs of the shareholders? More community based needs. How come there are not more stores that deal with food like this? On the supermarket, they should have a co-op supermarket there in Montreal Village, Queens, that is an example of Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and everything so much more. You know, employing the people of the community instead of trying to get contractors who's going to pay the most money and put in the crappy food and it's overpriced and it's stale food and all that kind of stuff. I mean, your own people are not accountable. I mean, they're not being held accountable. And then the stockholders are there, or the apartment holders, and they don't want to come to board meetings and stockholders meetings, and it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. An example of what it would be like for your people to run their own community on it's not their own community, and they're not doing it. So, how do you get your folks to do the right thing? How do you get your folks to participate? How do you get your folks when there used to be stockholders meetings and the place was filled with, when it was a Jewish community, everybody came down, and when it turned all primarily black, nobody comes down. They don't want to know what's going on, how the budget's being run, who's spending what. They've got no time. They only got time to, I guess, watch Love and Hip Hop, play their music, and what? They don't have time to know their community, and we don't have time, or it's just going to be the way it is, like they did with the elections with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. That they're not voting for anybody because it's all going to be the same. Excuse me. So, then by the way, you know, some folks were telling me, just moving it along, that on the New York City NYCHA has said that they are now going to start putting a clause in the leases or something that smoking in apartments is no longer allowed. And they are creating what they call the New York City public housing buildings are now smoke-free, New York. New York City Housing Authority residents are no longer to smoke inside apartments, indoor common areas, or offices. But some residents have already filed a lawsuit. And we want to see how that's going to win out. Because it might be, is this going to be a government thing? Is the government going to prevail? Excuse me, folks, got a tickle in my throat. Or are the people? Oh, the air in him. So, if you live in the New York City housing, and remember this Ben Carson, the famous brain surgeon, he's doing some old, we'll talk about that. But New York City residents, New York City Housing Authority residents are no longer allowed to smoke inside apartments, indoor common areas, or offices. They're also not allowed to light up within 25 feet of public housing buildings. I guess they'll lock you up, all right? It applies to cigarettes, cigars, pipes, and hookahs. Well, how could they force people to not smoke in their own house and they pay the rent? That's supposed to be their home. And you're supposed to be able to do whatever you want to in your home, says one New York City Housing Authority resident. So I kind of understand, especially when you have to work when you have work orders and other people coming into the household who don't smoke, and you are aware of how secondhand smoke affects other people. So I kind of agree with that. But at the same time, you're paying rent, and you take away my own independence. New York City Housing Authority agency is saying, well, that's the way we're just trying to help you folks stop smoking. We're going to help you quit smoking. All right, well, maybe you could stop that polluted traffic that's blowing under my window. Stop all that noise pollution from the trains running over my head, right? And get some of them rats out the street that you got running around that y'all should be laying some more of that explosive rat bait things, that CO2 pills that rats eat, and just boom, it blows right up. I mean, maybe y'all could stop some, maybe you could put some affordable health going down, because I know that NYCHA policy is probably going to be something that's federal, and they want to pass that along, going along the long way. That's just some things, you know. But I know somebody who had a really strong interest on some food topics, and I'm just going to see if this person had that in mind. 718-622-4590. Hello, this is Mark Reno on In Your Face. Yvonne, I know I caught you off guard, right?
I know you did.
Tell me, Yvonne, did she just hang up on me? Or was that me? We're going to try Yvonne again. We're going to see. We're going to try this one. Because she's very much interested in, she's into the food. Can I put you on the air? Okay, you're on the air right about now.
Okay.
Now, you were trying to call in and tell us your name and where you're calling from, or where I called you to.
Well, this is the client. I'm calling from Rochdale Village, Queens. And there were a couple of things we were touching on that I felt were quite stimulating as far as things we need to communicate about among each other. I touching on the subject you're talking now, because NYCHA and in Rochdale Village as well, they've implemented a no smoking rule regulation.
Right.
And a lot of people seem to feel the same way, that their rights are being infringed upon. But at the same time, when we really look at the health costs of people getting sick from smoking, which is eventually passed on to the working person, that it may have to take force like that to change our situation, you know, especially in a communal living. I mean, in your own house, I don't believe anyone should really stop you for what you're doing in your home. But in a communal environment, it may be necessary because of the health risks and even the environment, the cigarette butts on the ground and on the floor in the elevators and stuff. It doesn't really give it a nice appearance, you know?
Right. Well, I didn't know that Rochdale. I maybe I forgot, but I wasn't really aware that they also had set this in policy. In effect.
Well, not within the apartment.
Right.
In 50 feet, within 50 feet of the building.
Okay.
There's restrictions, you know. But like you said, as with anything that changes, there's a problem of enforcement. And, of course, people coming against it, or people who are for it, and you have a division, you know. But,
right. Because I know some time ago they started with that, you couldn't grill on your balconies. They didn't want you to have any type of you couldn't cook out because when I grew up there,
Right.
people had their little hibachis and so forth, and that's what they did.
Mhm.
So it sort of was like this big brother effect. Well, why can't we do something that has always been done? And a lot of times, policy is just done. I don't know. Policy is just done about a power trip. I think sometimes just to see who can do what. Some might be like we're more conscious about hazards, fire hazards, or
Mhm.
other things like that. But I think some of it is a power trip. Some things you're just not going to be able to stop people from doing because some people just enjoy certain habits. People know there's risks in everything that you do. There's risks in driving fast cars. There's risks
Mhm.
in taking medication. There's risks in everything. And if I'm smoking, or I don't want to smoke in the hallways, of course, but if I close my door, and I know that because nowadays we have marijuana is practically acceptable, around the country, and
Mhm.
they're growing all types of strands of it. I know you can walk by somebody that's not smoking pot, but he's got a pot in his pocket. And you can smell it a block away because it's so strong. And when they start
Mhm.
smoking this pot, a lot of times it goes right into other people's apartments, and I understand that part because it can be quite aggravating. But basically, if you're just smoking and then it's not going in other people's homes that way strongly, or you're on your terrace or whatever. You got your windows open in your house. Who's to bother? So we got to really watch this. And then, what's interesting to me about this, it reminds me of this thing about you didn't ask, and I feel that way about Metro cards. I feel that way about Easy Pass. I feel that way about a lot of things that government just does, and you don't know who is the one that set
Mhm.
this in policy, and all of a sudden everybody has to march to this order and this beat. But who asked for this to be done? Like, no, it doesn't. If the masses don't really like it, then we don't want to have it. And who's to say we have to do this because you want it to be so? And so, it's just another sign of times. What else did you have, Yvonne, to tell us?
Well, also what you were saying about the comments with the child, a certain age and wearing a certain type of clothing,
Oh, yeah.
and just looking at the industry of the garment industry and just being put out there for children to wear in the first place. It's all about making money.
Mm,
A lot of the younger parents are not focused on that they're raising a child. A lot of them want their children to, I'm not saying all, but a lot of them want their children to be adults, even as children. They want to expose them to things of adulthood.
right.
And it's taking its toll, like you say, sending a certain message. A lot of the children, under the direction of their parents, they don't even have the manners or the way to communicate. How should they be communicating as a child? It's like things have changed, you know.
Mm,
Even as you were saying with policies, one thing that seems to be lacking in our community, talking about the African American community, is the idea that a policy is given to us, but there's not the idea that we can become involved in policy making.
mm-hmm.
And I refer back to my years when my kids were going through school. And I hope there's someone listening that has school-age children, the importance of being involved, being on the different committees, of being in a position of knowing what they're teaching your children, of being in the position to affect your parental, your influence.
Mm-hmm.
And they did open up they made a liaison between the parents and the schools where that could be voiced.
Right.
But I don't believe that, these opportunities are taken into consideration because, like you said, whenever a policy is coming down, it started somewhere. And I can remember, just being in college and being told that you had to write up a policy. So
Right.
there is the need for people to be involved in policy making.
Right.
But then again, like you said, there's politics involved in that. And somewhere along the line, maybe we will get, so we lay aside politics and get down to the real deal. Because it doesn't matter whether I voted for Trump or whoever I voted for. What matters is wanting to see some type of change happen. Something happens with the issue, not so much about the party. Because the issue is affecting all people.
Right.
You know, it's not really just affecting one party or the other party. It's affecting the quality of life of everyone. The thing that you brought up is something that, like you said about the food market.
Right, and I was going to ask you about
the food
that.
issue, the thing of food is something that affects not just our community. There is a money-making thing going on, you know, and the country itself was always looked upon as a country that promotes capitalism, and so it's gotten to a higher point now where that's the main thing. If you've got money, something can be done. And I'm kind of like an advocate that maybe we all need to stop saying it takes money and start realizing it takes energy. It takes people becoming active in whatever way they can. That may as well may also affect some of the homeless situations, some of the situations where people are not employed and they need something to do with their life.
Right.
You know, to change the environment even, you know.
Right.
We have certain things, it's sad to say, in our communities that seem to repeat itself generation to generation. And one of them is hanging out. One of them is just sitting around, especially our men. And our men are so valuable. And they have so much in them. But I think once you're saying, well, you're not making so much money or so much, you're not successful, you just kind of shut down and say, I have nothing to offer. But your energy, your actual physical energy, like you see the community is not clean, being willing to volunteer, say, let's try to get our community clean, or seeing a lot of single mothers or even single fathers trying to do their job as their role or their their role as a parent, and they have support. You know, and there are people that could support. You know, it has nothing to do with money. We're talking about just the aspect of volunteer, seeing a need and volunteering for that, you know. So as long as it's money, we're going to stay where we're at because no one's going to give up their money. And that's the, that's the bottom line
that's
of it.
The reality to it, right?
Unless we have a compassionate heart.
Right.
It's going to be kind of difficult. So I thank you for the opportunity. It's wonderful that you have this forum going, and
yeah, thank you so much.
Whether it's events or but the community is vital, you know, because we can't assume what people are thinking or this person is saying. We need to talk about it so we can know what it is, you know.
Finish, Yvonne?
Yeah. Kind of left it hanging there.
I thought you had one more thing to. Well, thank you for calling in. We every Wednesday tell a friend, share the app, Triple Vibes Radio in your face every Wednesday from 4 to 6. Download Simple Radio on your iPhone. We even have a YouTube Live and a Facebook Live. And right now I'm not even using the 718-622 number. My tech man, I don't know what's going on. I haven't heard from him. He sort of was stuck on the plane or train or something. So we're using the 718-810-1118, 718-810-1118. And that's also the WhatsApp line if you want to use the WhatsApp. And I'll just take the calls directly right here to my phone, to my desk, to the microphone, and we're just keeping it right straight in your face. That's right in your face. Thank you very much. Thank you, Yvonne, for your time, and we'll catch you back next week. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to go through some of this really short. I had some of this from a week or so ago, and some points and things that I've run through and I've seen, and I said I'll talk about it, and who knows. All right, so let's see what we have. We have a $3.8 trillion income. It was suggested that doling out a universal basic income, okay, folks, doling out a universal base income of $12,000 a year to every United States citizen will cost taxpayers approximately $3.8 trillion annually. And that's according to a new study. That's roughly one-fifth of the nation's annual gross domestic product, or 78% of all taxes collected for social programs, according to Ray Diallo, co-chairman of the investment firm Bridgewater Associates, who published the study Primer on Universal Basic Income to LinkedIn on Thursday. The premise of UBI is that every citizen receives regular, no-string-attached payments from the government that, when paired with minimum wage work, yield a livable income. In New York City, a full-time worker earning the 2018 minimum wage of $13.50 an hour and also receiving $12,000 in UBI will have a gross yearly income of $40,080. MIT estimates it costs at least $33,000 a year to live in the Big Apple. UBI has been hotly debated, with proponents charging it will level out economic inequality and buffer against automation-related job losses, and detractors arguing it will be too costly and encourage laziness. Dalio didn't pick a side, writing, "I'd rather you form your own opinion after you are informed. In the unlikely event every penny of government social spending saved for infrastructure and education was redirected towards UBI, it would only cover 92% of the $3.8 trillion. A woman who drunkenly fell to her death down the trash chute at her luxury Union Square building was in the middle of a contentious divorce and forced to undergo regular drug and alcohol tests, the lawyer said to the Post. Laura Pacochoco, 48, and her husband, David Christopher Chalet, were battling over two homes in Southampton, an apartment in Chelsea, and a residence in Williamsburg. Sounds suspicious to me already. She had already lost custody of her son and was required to undergo drug and alcohol testing as part of the court settlement. That's what her lawyer, Eric Sheff, said. Sheff said that she had a 2012 DWI conviction and had been battling a drinking problem brought on by brain tumor. The pain and dependency she was experiencing had her drinking and was directly related to the growing brain tumor. Didn't explain how she fell down the chute, though. I think we need to be looking for her husband. The Food and Drug Administration on Friday approved the first drug intended to treat smallpox, a move that could halt the lethal pandemic if the virus were to be released as a terrorist bioweapon or through a laboratory accident. The antiviral pill, Tecovirimat, also known as Toppox, has never been tested in humans with smallpox because the disease was declared eradicated in 1980, 3 years after the last known test. But it was very effective at protecting animals deliberately infected with the monkeypox and rabbitpox, two related diseases that can be lethal. It also caused no severe side effects when safety tested in 359 healthy human volunteers. This new treatment affords us an additional option should smallpox ever be used as a bioweapon. weapon. Well, I think I'm sleeping easier at night with that one. Well, in London, the homes of the former Sinn Féin leader Gerry Adams and another prominent member of the Northern Irish Republican Army were attacked with explosive devices. It's on again, folks. No one was injured in the attacks on Friday, but Mr. Adams said two of his grandchildren were in the driveway of his home in West Belfast minutes before the explosion, laddie. For those who were involved in the attack, if they have the gumption to sneak up on our homes, I'd like them or their representatives to come and meet me, Mr. Adams said Saturday. I'd like them to sit down and explain to me what this is all about. Well, you know what it's all about. Protestants and Catholics and all that kind of stuff. It just behooves me, folks out there in the world, to really get why people, they're supposed to be praying to the same God, but if you're Protestant and you're Catholic, I got to cut your neck off. It feels good to see red blood growing on the green parts of the Irish landside because you're Catholic or you're Irish. I don't know. When you go to heaven, what are they supposed to do? Separate you? Oy vey, I don't get it. I just don't get people. People are just either they're phony or they just mental health mental health is really bad. All right. President Trump on Thursday said he would raise Russia's meddling in the 2016 election when he sat down with President Vladimir Putin or whatever. Now that's what he said. And that's just the first line from an old newspaper clipping that I had from 2 weeks ago. And then I was listening to the news, and they were saying about how the Russians haven't stopped trying to play checkers and everything in this new election that's coming up in November, and the White House really hasn't done anything to combat it. And if when these November elections happen, if the Republicans lose the majority of the seat, they'll say, well, that's because the Russians done messed with it. And if they win, they're not going to say anything but keep their mouth shut. And it's so they're just going to wait and see how it's going. And of course, we have complacent politicians who are just doing nothing. We have 33% of the population in the United States that just believe what Trump is saying, and the same kind of populations, the same kind of statistic percentage that Hitler was running with when he had his bunch of people, probably about the same segment of population that Jim Jones had when he was making the Kool-Aid in the kitchen. And you just got these folks that are just, he's the Pied Piper, and these people are following him. It's a darn good shame. This is what we're fighting with mental health people who are actually days of the living dead, and all that kind of stuff, and wildfires in California. No wonder it's getting hot over there, cooking their brains out there in the Midwest. There's justice at last. It was a hot and sticky night in Mississippi, and the air smelled of honeysuckle. 14-year-old Emmett Till was found asleep when two white men dragged him out of bed waving a flashlight and a gun. The assailants beat Emmett to a bloody pulp, gouged out one of his eyes, shot him in the head, and that's about as far as we want to go. But more than 50 years after Emmett's heinous murder, the one woman who claimed on the stand, she recounted her statement when he said that he grabbed her and made sexual advances on her that day. And it just came out because there was 63 years later, the feds reopened the murder trial that still haunts a nation. And that's more or less, we're going to see where that's going to go to. They're just reopening it, so we all know the story of Emmett Till. And one of the most horrendous displays of man's inhumanity towards man, what people do, and it, I once seen a black and white movie, and it was kind of really interesting. I love black and white film nerds, and this goes back to the 50s, and I think the victim, who the town was, they had they had their bunny, they had their rabbit, and all the foxes and wolves were out waiting to chase a rabbit, right? And it wasn't the black little rabbit this time, but it was some sort of white criminal, and they had him in the jail, and the whole town, came out to, hey, we want him out the jail. And if you ever took a Greyhound bus, ever went cross country on the Greyhound bus, more than an Amtrak. I mean, I love the Amtraks, but the Greyhound bus is even more personal, because you're dirt road and you pull into the little gas station and you're waiting to see Mr. Henry from Green Acres. Some of you young cats don't know about this, but you pull into the station, you look at Andy Griffin and Barney and Mayberry, and you can see the whole set is set up where it's you're just the stranger in America. Like, I'm really in the backwoods back here somewhere, and I need to be cool because, hey, they ain't got no street lights. And I ain't running through no weeds and up to these sticks with flames on them. And it really brings it all out. And when you have that, and then you have a whole crowd, I mean, imagine coming outside and, like, all the people on Times Square on 42nd Street looking for the ball to drop. They all got sticks with flames on them, and they're talking about, let's go get them, they're going to hang them. Lynch him. Like, ooh, you got nowhere to run to? Yeah. And do you get on your knees and say, please, please, I'm not guilty? Or do you grab 12 machetes and 16 AR-15s and just be in a mad panic and I'm just going to kill everybody? A Bruce Willis in Die Hard or something? Or right? It's terrible. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It is really terrible. It's even as crazy as Donald Trump has just commissioned. He wants to build a new Air Force One plane. He's got actually just scrapped the baby blue one signature white paint job for the Air Force One, and he just wants something, a bigger and more comfortable bed aboard this plane. And it's, he's just changing. He's just changing it. But Boeing, I believe it's Boeing, took his advice, and they have designed and are coming up with a brand new AF-1. And it's probably going to have the Trump picture on the back. And I'm surprised, I'm really actually, because I said before he was elected, if he got elected, it wouldn't be the White House. It was going to be Trump's house. And as I said before, if you really know who's who in the world, you can go to Trump's private auction probably and get some of those pictures that's in the White House that they just took down and put the imitation ones up. You can probably, for a high price, you can get some of those. The original paintings that were in the green room and the blue room and all of that stuff that was in the White House, they'll be selling it at Trump's private auction somewhere in Mar-a-Lago. I'll say I said that, in Mar-a-Lago, but yeah, that's how it's going. I saw something on the internet, and someone pointed out to me also about these girls who were fighting in a nail salon. And it seems that the Asian ladies didn't do the job correctly. And so the girls wanted it done right or get their money back, and they didn't get it back. And it became a problem, a confusion, and a fight. And according to the video that I saw on Facebook, it was kind of crazy, and it was what it was. And one of my friends who talked to me about it today, India Burrows, who was, matter of fact, she's a director, has her own show called What Were You Thinking? It's a fashion modern show, a fashion show. Was telling me that it was, because I said, well, could it mainly been a situation where the girls were just being too bullyish, and she said no, that the persons have always patronized this place, but when it was done wrong, they didn't correct it, and so they wouldn't give them the money back, and so it got into a fight. And I said, well, my question is if because they seem to be having a protest that was going on outside this place. They're having a protest and to close down to have the place, the store closed or removed, and they needed X amount of signatures to have this done. And so I said, well, if they get the signatures to have this show removed, have this have this store removed, what are they going to put there? And if they put a black nail salon parlor there, are they going to patronize it? Because see, we really good at making some noise and everything, but we ain't good at patronizing. All right, so now you're going to have an empty hole in the wall. Well, somebody else is going to come right in there, and it ain't going to be you. You know what I mean? It's going to be some other nationalities going to be coming, whether it's my Yemen brothers or whatever. They're going to come in and set up a shop, and y'all are going to run in there. But if your own folks come in there and set something up, you're not going to really patronize it like you're going to patronize it. Because somehow, Chinese people do your nails better than anybody else, right? And Italian people cook the best pizza like everybody else, right? And jerk chicken and all that stuff you can only get from West Indians and whatever. But it's funny how like they used to have Italians in the pizza parlors, and they stopped having Italians making pizza parlors unless you go to somewhere in Brooklyn or Little Italy or somewhere. But it's primarily Mexicans that sell you the pizza, and you don't think about nothing about that pizza. And it's some South American, and I'm sorry to say Mexican, somebody from South America. And the South Americans are making your pizza, and but if a black person would make the pizza for you, would you go in there and buy that? Come on, you're going to look at them and it's like that's not real pizza, because black people don't make real pizza. Something to make you say or whatever. Here's I got a problem with, and it's just two things. One is Chris Collins. Chris Collins is a Republican representative, New York Republican representative. Him and his son have been indicted and charged on 13 counts of securities fraud. And more or less, they did something like, I was just putting it together. How do you say it? Well, what happens is that they knew that. Oh, I knew it was what it was, folks. I'm sorry. Remember, 48. There wasn't 48 hours. It was Dr. Detroit or something with Eddie Murphy when he becomes the security. She was a bum on the street, and they have him switch trading places. The two Wall Street guys make a deal of how they can make this one black person become an executive and take their other floor trader or broker and turn them into a bum. And it was all over a $1 bet. And it was kind of an interesting picture. It was kind of funny, too. But it was all about, in the end, the two old guys end up being bankrupt and being hobos and homeless themselves after the tide was turned on them by Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd because of the report, the annual Florida report on the crops to see if the crop season was going to be healthy or not. That depended on how many shares the investors bought and so forth. And it seems that this Republican was working on the same premise. This New York Republican, Chris Collins, and his son and another man were charged with 13 counts of securities frauds, wire frauds, false statements stemming from an alleged insider trading scheme centered on an Australian pharmaceutical company. Collins, who was the first sitting member of Congress to endorse Donald Trump's presidential bid, surrendered Wednesday morning at his attorney's office in Manhattan. Prosecutors at the United States Office for the Southern District of New York alleged in an indictment that Collins and the other defendants did act on non-public information about the results of a drug trial and used it on the stock of the pharmaceutical company, and which enabled them to make a lot of money or saved them some $168,000. Okay, or avoid more than $768,000 in losses they would have incurred if they had traded the stock after the drug trial results became public. Like the drug really sucked, and now they were going to just, sell, 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 sell. And so they knew that, and they sold before everybody knew and sold off the stock. So no, 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 no. Yes, you know how it goes. So they're up there, and they're going to say, "Well, we're not guilty," just like all the rest of the Republicans and collusion. So that's a really big problem. Corruption in the system, and the Republicans. But okay, so let's take that. We're going to see what's going to happen with that, just as well as Manafort's trial. You can follow that, and this is just the beginning, so it ain't really nothing juicy, because I want to hear the juicy part. We know they're all corrupt and they got busted and so forth. All right, we're going to see how that goes. But, folks, this is what's more serious. 5:42 p.m. in New York. It's probably 4:42 in Chicago. I know in California it's 2:42. And in space there's no time. Okay, now, everybody laughed. Thank you very much. Michael Ware in California. How you doing? Here's really what's happening. My friend Courtney Grossman in Chicago. She's the Chicago reporter, and she's very good. Courtney is fantastic. And but what was happening is Courtney Gross was reporting this week about the 35 killings Chicago has incurred last weekend. It's really sad that I'm trying to figure this out here. How Chicagoans deal with this mentally, how they go along their day knowing that they're living in a city that continuously shows no regard to its individuals, men, women, or child, how they statistically, how do you live somewhere where you know you're going to have, we're going to have at least 300 murders this year? Really? That's how you want to grow up. That's the neighborhood you want to grow up in. Chicago has had an average of 39 killings a month for the past 8 months. In 2017, Chicago had 418 murders at the same time this year. So in 8 months, Chicago has actually done better by 100 murders from the same time last year. So last year, Chicago had an average of 52.2 murders. This year is 39.7. There's been over 1,400 people shot in Chicago so far this year. Now, they say that per capita, the population per capita, meaning that for every 100,000 people, X amount of people get killed, and so Chicago really isn't high. They're not high on the murder like charts if you really were to chart it per capita, you know, for the amount of people that you have. But because it's in such a concentrated area, right? Because it's so dense, then the numbers are higher, et cetera, et cetera. That, to me, is no excuse. We know Detroit had the same problem because Detroit has a high murder rate also. And it's really interesting because when I looked this up, it said only 4 times since 1966 has Detroit finished a year with less than 300 homicides. Only 4 times since 1966. So we're talking many years. 40 is 2000, 10, 50, over 50, about 52 years. With less than 300 homicides. In 1974, Detroit had 714 homicides. Well, and let me ask you folks, and I got you people in Chicago, and I asked you to call in and tell her what is going on and how do you make any sense of this? What's going on? And my question to you folks, and you know, some of these folks, some of my folks out there listening, and I got you guys, you know, around the country and around the world, but I'm, you know, talking to you guys in Chicago primarily, and on this is, what are you waiting for to fix this? I mentioned it, I talked about it a bit last week before we went off air, but what are we really waiting for to fix this? You couldn't be really waiting for Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump, Ronald Reagan. You're not really waiting. Well, what are you waiting for him to send in the National Guard? And well, what are you waiting for? To be genocide out? I mean, you're doing it yourself, to yourself. Chicago. He's talking about the purge, the new purge, Chicago. Okay. The new purge. You can see it for free. You don't even have to spend $16 at the movie. Just go to Chicago. Well, it costs you a little bit to take a train or the bus. Maybe it might take the Chinese bus. You can get down there for the same price and see people just laying out. It's like 2 killings a day. We got to get better than this. We got to get better than this. All right. America, 9:50, 10 minutes to 6, folks. Got about 10 minutes left. If anybody wants to just make a quick call, we're going to use my number, 718-810-1118. That's the direct line to the mic. 718-810-1118. WhatsApp is 01 718-810-1118. And well, I wanted to have come up with a word at the end of the show, a word for today or a word for the week that we can, you know, develop. What's the word for the week? Might be power. It might be unity. It might be protest. It might be perseverance. It might be watching out for tribulation. It might be keep your head up. It might be all lives matter, Black Lives Matter, protect the children. It might be reach one and teach one. It might be any of those. We need to. I want to have folks when if you call in or if you just even just want to say I want to make the word for today something, then let's do that. Let's just do that. And please share the number. Next week it'll even be better as we grow in this show and get this music going. Some of the original music that I wrote and some music that we'll be playing. We're going to get that going. We're also going to have some good folks. I'm really going to bring on some people doing some really good things. I have Shay Roche or Ashley Roche from Stretching Hands, a young lady, 28. She started her own organization. And some other folks who are doing some good things out there in the world. Larry Brown, the Roper, program note. Oprah Winfrey was in town. I don't know if she still is. The word was she was in town because the Central Park 5 movie was being filmed in New York this week, and she's been in town, uptown. So if you guys want to network or find a way to go hang out and catch people, I was doing the last OG movie Monday, and I had to. I was offered that role. I had to pass on the role for Monday. We'll see what happens. It was just too early for me to get to, coming off my other work. They wanted me on set like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I just couldn't make it from getting in at 3:30. I had no sleep. But the last OG with Tracy Morgan is starting to film again, and as I said, the Central Park 5 is being filmed in New York, and see what's happening around town. There's a lot of things we can do. There's Coney Island that's happening, and Far Rockaway, I guess I haven't been out there. Some can tell us what's happening. You know, this gentrification is pushing people into places they haven't been before, or they haven't been in a long time, one way or the other. So we'd like to know what's happening out in those places like Far Rockaway, areas in the Bronx. I'm going to have members from the Coalition from the Homeless coming on board speaking. We're going to basically hold a good day on talks on that, people moving into independent living and housing, how to get adequate housing, how to get affordable housing or low-income housing. We don't just want to use the term affordable housing, because affordable housing can be whoever can afford it. So we want to be really conscientious of our terminologies on housing. And so with that being said, what will be the word for today? Should be, I tell you, believe in the Most High God, 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 Yahweh, in the name of Yeshua Mashiach. And we say that we want to keep people to motivate through all the tribulation, persevere. You know, the devil wants to sift you like wheat. The devil wants to sift you like wheat. So through tribulation, let's have perseverance. Pray that the Most High will keep you. Because He'll lay you down in green pastures. He'll put you beside the still waters. He will anoint your head with oil. He'll lay a table before you in the face of your enemies. How do I know? Because I know. I know. And keep it moving. Have hope. Because perseverance brings character, and character brings hope, because we believe that we're doing all of this for the goal. The goal is the glory, the grace, the salvation, to live that your spirit life that you had that's contained in this body of yours, this shell. You know, some people have a hard time believing in things. There's folks that believe in a lot of things, but I know if you go to that mirror and you look in that mirror, look into your eyes and look past your eyes and look into the back of your self and say, look at that body, and wow. And then you can sort of tell that you have a spirit inside. There's something inside of you that's looking at that. The consciousness is saying, wow, look at that. There's a spirit inside of you, and that spirit, when the shell falls apart because of wear and tear after, the time of your life, and you shed that, where's that energy, where's that spirit go to? That spirit is the spirit of God, the spirit that lives inside of you, and that's what we have to keep moving forward into this, in this lifespan, into wherever we go to next, wherever. There's a whole universe out there. There's 150,000 billion planets and 150,000 billion universes, galaxies. And who knows? God put you any place. A whole lot of things to explore. This lesson that we're learning here in this life is just to be applied somewhere else. I don't think that we who gets taught so much not to apply it somewhere, right? Your parents don't send you to school for you to just sit in school and don't do something with it. And God is your parent, and I think God has another plan for us to learn and see what we do in this life, how we treat others, where our values are, whatever. That's just my belief. To lead us to see how we love one another, treat other people, learn more about Him and all the magnificence that the power is in the Word. It's let it be, let it be. In the beginning was the Word. And when you learn to harness that Word, because it's all in the words too, right? Your heart is your heart, but it's what comes out your mouth defiles you, right? So it's all in the Word when you make it happen. It's the tongue that sets off a warring ship, that starts the first battle is the tongue. So how we learn to take that word and make the invisible become visible, let it be, let there be, let there be. I want to make this happen. And it happens. And you learn how to do that here. And if you learn understanding and wisdom, then you learn how to make all things great. Because when God made things, He saw that it was good, and it was good. And He didn't say when He made it was good, well, I didn't fit that right. It's not what He said. Right? Wisdom and understanding was with Him. And she says, I was with Him from the everlasting to the everlasting, and I was always His delight. Wisdom. Wisdom. So, the word for today, folks, is wisdom. Get wisdom, like better than money and all the things of this earth. Get wisdom and understanding so you can give it to God's people and live a better life. 6 o'clock coming up on 6 o'clock. Right now, and take it away. Thank you, folks, for listening. Calling next week on In Your Face Triple Vibes. Have your stories ready. Have everything ready. Bye-bye.